The following opinions are those of the host and not of the LNM radio network. The following opinions are those of the host and not of the LNM radio network. They are mine and usually right. We're coming to you live deep within Southeast Asia, deep within China. This is Tough Reality. We welcome you from the internet. The following opinions are those of the host and not of the LNM radio network. They are mine and usually right. We're coming to you live deep within Southeast Asia, deep within China. This is Tough Reality. We welcome you from the internet, shortwave, on the phone lines, from around the world, wherever you may be. We welcome you. We will discuss reality and truth that is right in front of your face. Sometimes the toughest things are right before us. We'll discuss issues of politics, religion, economics, and all the things that you don't discuss at the family dinner. No topic is off limits. We're in China, and we will discuss thoughts from a global perspective. If it is PG-13 and interesting, it is fair game. I look forward to meeting you on the show. Call in and discuss your favorite topic. We might disagree, but I'll let you get your point across, and I will not cut you off. Have you had your daily dose of TR? Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, and go to our website at toughreality.com. That's TOUGHREALITY.com. Or email us at mike@toughreality.com. Also, you can subscribe to us on iTunes. The calling number today is 347-989-1012. That's 347-989-1012. Remember, hit the number 1 if you want to talk on the air. Now here is Mike with Tough Reality.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. This is Mike at Reality, toughreality.com. Thanks so much. Today is February 27th? Oh, my God, 2013? Are you talking about one more day before the end of February? Wow, we're in beautiful China, beautiful downtown Shenzhen in Studio A. Right across from me over there in Studio B, we have Engineer Kelly. How you doing, Engineer Kelly? She said she's fine. That's very good, very good, very good. It's 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the United States of America, but here in China, we're right at about 11 p.m. That's right, we're halfway around the world, enjoying ourselves. In fact, today was a very nice day, very warm, in fact, and it was sort of weird. It was warm but cool, but very humid, so it's a unique type of feeling. Now, I just want to start off real quick to let you know we will have a guest today, a wonderful guest, and we'll talk about him in just a minute, but there was a lead story I was reading recently this afternoon, actually, this afternoon, your evening time. There was a hot air balloon that exploded in Egypt. And people actually died in that. And I just wanted to take time and say our thoughts and prayers are going out to the people that were there. They were tourists that were in hot air balloons, and it's a sad thing that happens sometimes. But here in the show, like I said, our thoughts and our prayers go out to each and every person there. We are on the LNM radio network. Let's go to the Late Night in the Midlands website. Go enjoy yourself over there. Join up. Donate if you can. And I have a group page over there and a regular page. You can check me out over there. You can also just type in my name, Mike, Aemisegger, and find me all over Google. You can also just type in Tough Reality in Google, and you'll be able to find us all over the place. Now, our show discusses everything. We talk about politics, religion. We talk about economics. We talk about all kinds of crazy things. And I want you to go over to my website, toughreality.com, and go look through all the different types of material we have over there. Now, usually when we have a guest, they'll have a bio, and they'll have a website and maybe some special offers and things like that. And I will put those up on the website as we get those. And you can go and search that out and look at our guests and check them out. We can also follow us over on Spreaker.com, and then also we're up at iTunes. Just search for my name or search for Tough Reality. You'll find it. either way there. We're also up on YouTube. So each show is normally uploaded to YouTube within 24 hours, and then you can listen to it there. We do have many, many subscribers who listen to us at Blog Talk Radio, and they download the podcast. I know they're getting them. There's many thousands that download it over to iTunes, and I'm enjoying that, and I thank everybody. And we give a shout-out to all of the people in North America, South America, all over Australia, Europe, Asia, all over the islands. We thank you so much for listening, and all you aliens that might be out there, thank you for listening on the satellite network up there. Now, we've had a lot of interesting comments lately, especially about this asteroid that's gone on. We had a guest on yesterday, Peter Kling, who was talking a little bit about that, a little bit about prophecy, but we had also a caller call in, Rob, from over in Seattle, Washington. And I've talked to Rob before. Rob's a good friend of mine, and he brought up some interesting information about a thing called a God Rod. You can look at that and check that out. I'll be putting that up on the Tough Reality website so you can look at it for yourself, and you make the decision. Remember, the tough reality is you choose for you. Nobody else chooses for you. You're the one that makes that decision, so you can make an impact on your world. Nobody's going to force you to do anything unless you want it to happen. Now, many people have been put in prison for political things, but most of those people, when they go to prison, you know what they say? They say they're still free on the inside, and that's very important. That's very important. And so today we're going to have a wonderful guest. Now, I had read his bio and read his material, and it is fascinating for me. Now, the thing that's interesting is I love studying ancient text. I love studying different types of information. And his book is a very interesting title. It talks about the adventures of being human. Now, I'm not going to talk a lot about what he's going to talk about, but I'm going to be a student tonight because this stuff is just very interesting to me. And there's also a thing called the Harancha book. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But it's a very interesting, from what I see, a very interesting book that I want to read. Some material that I have not, I've heard about it, and I've wanted to research it a little bit and do that type of thing. And so to me, it's an interesting thing to have that type of material out there, and then to have somebody interpreting some things. Now, our guest today, his name's Jerry Lane. Now, he's a retired carpenter and a project foreman with a master's degree. I love this, a master's degree in creative writing, and who had translated transmuted lessons from Michael and Mother for the last 8 years. Now, this is going to be a very interesting interview. Jerry, you there?
Oh, I'm here.
Awesome, man. Well, I am so glad that you're on our show today here at Tough Reality. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's going to be a very good interview. And like I said, this now, help me pronounce the word. Harancha?
Urantia.
Urantia.
Yeah, you have to say it a couple times, I guess, to get used to it. It's Urantia, which is that's there's a thing called the Urantia book. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but that's just the kind of a spiritual name for our planet. So when you think of Urantia, just think of planet Earth.
Oh, well, that's interesting. So why don't we go ahead and start off with that? Because this is very interesting to me. I've heard other shows, they've talked about this material, and I didn't have a chance yet to study. So why don't you take us through an overview, first of all, a little bit about you. I said a few things about you, but what you want the audience to know about you, and a little bit of an overview of this, your Rancha book.
Yeah, the Rancha book. Okay, Mike, I'm sitting here in just north of San Francisco in Marin County, California. And we've had about 2 or 3 weeks of springtime. Everything's blooming, which gets me to sneezing a bit. But, we've had beautiful weather here. And with respect to the Rancha book, it's quite a mystery as to how the thing came about even. But for your listeners, I want you to imagine picking up the complete works of Shakespeare. In other words, it's originally came out in a very large blue book, over 2,000 pages, 196 chapters.
Okay.
And I think there's about a 65-page index to it. So every chapter has like a little outline to it. So we're talking about an enormous book of very small writing. And I must confess, it took me a number of years to get through it the first time, because it starts out in almost like pure theology, like 65 pages on the nature of God, and then the Trinity, and then the whole first section of the book is a very extensive, unique cosmology that talks about not only the physical universes, we can see it out there, with our telescopes and stuff, but what it talks about is a whole spiritual hierarchy of, in other words, that the physical universe is actually administered by a whole hierarchy of spiritual beings. So the first section of the Urantia book is pretty much an overview of the whole cosmology as we know it. And it ties in very perfectly with all of our scientific knowledge. It doesn't contradict that in any way, except it says that there's this overlay of spiritual beings, like there's a spiritual being that is the head of a galaxy and so forth. And the physical creation of planets and suns and all this is by deliberate spiritual beings. In other words, the whole universe is not only created, but it's administered by spiritual beings. So that's just the first section of the book.
So the first 60, you said 65 pages. So that's sort of like an organizational chart.
Very much, exactly. It's like being it's like a military table of organization of all the different all the different spiritual beings that are administering the physical universe.
Now, do they give them names in there?
Oh yes, right. As much as they you have a it's very Christian-like in terms of there is a trinity of a Father, a Son, or a second person, then an infinite Spirit. But then it goes into like the head of a Ancients of Days is simply a name for the beings ahead of a galaxy, and so forth. The second book comes right down to what they call a local universe, which is just our section of the galaxy. And
surprise!
Again, this second section of the Urantia book goes, this is several hundred pages of extraordinary detail of this our local part of the galaxy, and it is administered, it's created and then administered by what they call a creator son of God, who comes out here literally from a paradise to out into time and space, and there's a creator son and a creator daughter of God, what we call a Michael son of nothing to do with you, a Michael son of God, and then a mother spirit. In other words, there's both a kind of a male and female being to come out from paradise hundreds of billions of years ago and created and organized our section of the universe. And this is what they call a local universe. So the second section of the Urantia book is very in great detail about our local universe and how it was formed. And also, it's this section of the Urantia book that goes into enormous detail of what happens to us when we die. There's a whole series of events that we go through, hundreds of different worlds we'll be living on. So this is a lot of the interest of the second book, the second section of the Urantia book. It's about our life after death, even right down to the kind of planets we're on, the kind of worlds, the kind of bodies we have, and so forth.
Wow! What do we have different bodies for each world, or
yes? When we regain consciousness, we have by the way, when you get in, as you can imagine, when you get into 2,000 pages of a lot of little tiny words, that took me several years to read it all. This is almost an endless digression you can get into, but we actually have a guardian angel, and this is in all of our whole life experience, the soul that we're growing, as we live, this determines somewhat the kind of physical body we'll have in terms of character and soul. And so it talks about we will be more or less kind of like recreated with a certain kind of body that is just much more spiritual than the one we have now. But we're actually on a physical planet. It's not. We're not out floating around in space or sitting on a cloud playing a harp. These are actually physical worlds we go into. But as we progress in this future life, we do go from world to world to world, and every time we do that, we become a little bit more spiritual each time. So there's many, many stages to go through just in our local universe. Now, the size of our local universe is almost 4 million inhabited planets. So this
4 million?
4 million.
Oh my
and there's
gosh.
there's 700,000 of these local universes throughout the galaxies. I mean, throughout all of creation. So we're talking about an enormous, enormous creation. It reminds me of the Hindu, the Hindu notions of creation. It's gigantic.
It's
and of course,
huge.
they say right in the Urantia book. By the way, this was written back around the late 30s, first published about 1955. And even at that time, they say there's more than 350 million galaxies. So the book, even though the book was written in the late 30s and early 40s, it's very up to date in terms of cosmology. So the first book is about the whole creation and the spiritual beings that administer it. The second book is about our local part of the galaxy of almost 4 million inhabited worlds, of which, by the way, we're very recent. We're a very primitive kind of world from that point of view. So, so
we're
you
sort
can see
of like
when you open the Urantia book, you can see why there's 2,000 pages here and 196 chapters to it.
It's unbelievable. So they talk about moving from world to world. Is there a concept, like in the Christian Bible, they have the heaven and the hell. Is there that type of concept, or like a karma thing? If you're a bad guy, you come back as a worm, or is there anything like that?
Exactly. None of the above. They refute all of that. They refute all of that. From their standpoint, the life we have here, it is reflected somewhat when we are reconstituted, when we are given our guardian angel, in a sense, provides a kind of an epiphany of our life. When we regain consciousness, our inner and our outer life, you might say, are a little bit more in sync. Because now you can have, shall we say, a very beautiful person who's very evil inside, but everybody makes it over to the other side. In other words, we're not mature enough yet as a personality. In order to, we can't even choose to cease to exist. We can commit suicide, but we're just going to appear over there, and we're so much more spiritual and soulful immediately upon awakening that we have our whole life, our personality, who we really are, is immediately available to us, and so we're very much aware that we have died, and yet. They say, like, throughout all eternity, you'll never forget this moment of reawakening, just the fact that you have survived, that you actually died, and here you are again. And then, as you go from world to world to world, you just simply become more and more spiritual as you get more and more soul. As you earn more and more experience, you just evolve this way. And there's no end to that.
So the question is for me then, if I remember Earth to Earth to Earth, world to world to world, is this like my first experience then?
Yes. In other words, they also refute reincarnation as it's normally understood. In other words, they say that when that sperm and egg get together, first of all, that's somewhat physically unique. Even with a dozen brothers and sisters, you're still physically, distinguishable. And that is when God at that moment, God provides a personality to go with that physical event. It's not that your personality has a previous existence. It's that you start here. In other words, this is where it all starts. And of course, you have a choice. They say eternal life is not forced on anyone, but you're not yet mature enough to choose to cease to exist. But it all starts here, and every personality is unique. This is directly created by God, like the essence of who you are is a creation of God, and this is what never changes. This is what you will always be you, even a million years from now, and thousands of different worlds you've been on and stuff. You will always be you, and you will always be recognizable by others as you.
Oh, will people move along with us then?
Well, in other words, they say there's enormous reunions over there. I mean, when you regain consciousness, you can. You're given like which will be like about about 6 months of our time, right? Just to visit all the people you've ever known.
Oh my!
I mean, there's your mother, your father, all the friends you've ever known, that have gone on before you.
Right.
They're there. As a matter of fact, they might even be notified that you're going to be arriving, and they'll be there to meet you. This is the enormous joy that they say you can only imagine now, because everybody survives.
Oh, I miss my dad sometimes so much.
Well,
John.
And just to know that everybody does survive. Now, it raises the question then of who would choose not to survive. And they just kind of hint around that those individuals whose soul is just so totally, in other words, their life experience is just so totally horrendous that upon awakening they would be in such pain they would just say, please God, can I just cease to exist? I just can't stand this. In other words, I can only think this is just my own personal idea that people who've just been so totally evil and committed, in other words, are responsible for so much pain. Think of some of the really great dictators of history.
Hitler.
Yeah, that when they regain consciousness and the full awareness in a spiritual sense of who and what they are and what they've done, it might just be too much for them. It might be it would be part of God's mercy just to let them cease to exist.
Wow, so that's incredible.
So this is the second book of the Urantia book is about our local universe, how it came about, but it also has a whole chapter on what Michael is, a creator son of God, and what Mother Spirit is, a creator daughter God. It goes into enormous detail what kind of being they are, and our planet, Earth here, has the sole distinction of Michael, this creator son of God, in order to, not only is he, you might say, our father, our spiritual father, and intimate knowledge of all the people of millions of worlds. He not only has all of this in his experience, right, of us,
right,
but he himself is required by God to actually have a human life. In other words, he actually has to be not only a creator son of God, but actually has to have a human life. And this is a person we knew of as Jesus.
Wow.
So the fourth book of the Urantia book is 800 pages on the life of Jesus. I mean, right down day by day, almost, and shall we say let's just say August 5th, 20 AD, who was there, what was said, what was done. That's the detail of the fourth book, or the fourth section of the Urantia book, is the life and times of Jesus. In that kind of detail. So this is who Michael is his human life, is what he lived here on our planet. This is who, in what, you might say in the larger sense, Jesus is and was.
Now, that's a question then. So did Michael, Jesus, do they move forward along with the planet, or do they just sort of stay in this local universe, or what do they do?
Yes. In other words, Michael and Mother Spirit, just being gods, they have the experience of all of us within them. In other words, they are part of us. Jesus mentioned this at the end of the Bible and the Urantia book, that His Spirit is what's called the Spirit of Truth. Remember, Jesus said, I must leave so my Spirit of truth can come and live in you. Mother Spirit has no counterpart in Christianity. Christianity is what they call the Holy Spirit. This is literally her spirit that is part of us. But in Christianity, they don't go at all into her personality. They just talk about the Holy Spirit, being part of us, giving us life.
Yeah.
But the Urantia book goes into enormous detail of the kind of being she is, and what she does for us in our mind. So right within us, we have Michael's and Mother's Spirit. They're part of us. And this, in our prayer and our meditation, this is how we contact them. And, of course, this gets around to how I was able to transmit them and put it, for the last 8 years, I've been transmitting Michael and Mother Spirit.
Wow. Okay, well, this is a good place to take a break. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break, and we're going to continue on. I've got so many questions right now just in hearing what you're talking about. So this is very good stuff. So I'm going to put you on hold really quick here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is very, very interesting stuff that Jerry's talking about. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to come back. If you have any questions, I want you to call in 347-989-1012. That's 347-989-1012. We have many people on the line right now, but if you want to get on the air, I want you to hit the 1 key so that we can actually bring you on if you have a question. We're going to be talking about this Urantia book. We're going to talk more about what Jerry's been doing and his work for the past 8 years in transmitting Michael and Mary. This is very interesting stuff, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and I will come back with you and see you on the other side.
Is there proof of God's existence in our government's records? Author Jose Colazo brings his years of research into this stunning question to light in God Does Exist, No More Nuclear Testing, and more. Touching on little-known government projects such as the Remote Viewers Program and active auroral research program, Colazo has uncovered some amazing discoveries through his research and use of the Freedom of Information Act. From uncovered information on the Ark of the Covenant to connections between natural disasters and nuclear testing, experience this revealing look into our government's obscure and hidden work. Discover how new and experimental technologies may change our world forever and uncover monumental proof and answers to mankind's greatest questions in God Does Exist, No More Nuclear Testing, and more.
Hello, this is Michael Vera for CureShop.com with products endorsed by Dr. Leonard Horowitz, including Liquid Dentist, a one-stop defense system for not only your mouth, but your whole body. This unprecedented product aggressively attacks the critters that cause oral diseases using concentrated microfine silver plus oxygen and minerals to help reverse tooth decay and gum diseases, helping repair your teeth and gums naturally. Then, by swallowing this amazing and good-tasting tooth and gum saver, you actually get a natural, nutritional immunization against more than 1,000 strains of oral bacteria and viruses when you swallow. Liquid Dentist is awesome for boosting natural immunity. Imagine your teeth feeling hygienic clean and super smooth for up to 3 days after each use. Swish with it 3 minutes or more after brushing and flossing. Gargle to freshen and protect your throat, and then swallow Liquid Dentist. Wow, what a great idea. It's all natural, healing, and protective. Dr. Horowitz developed Liquid Dentist based on emerging science from England showing a 20-second exposure to medical-grade ozone kills germs deep within decay, even down to the nerve. Then highly concentrated mineral mouth rinsing can remineralize your teeth and harden them even harder than they were originally. This way, teeth can be saved and not drilled away or lost due to decay or tooth fracture. Plus, Liquid Dentist kills periodontal germs and leaves your breath fresh and teeth feeling professionally clean for days. Go to liquiddentist.net to learn more, or go to cureshop.com. That's cureshop.com. CURESHOPPE.com to order your supply of Liquid Dentist today, or call toll-free 1-888-621-7611. That's 1-888-621-7611. Call now to save your smile. You're listening to the LNM Radio Network. The LNM Radio Network covers it all with great shows like Tough Reality, Paranormal Perception, The Hurricane Hour, Angel's Lighthouse, Mysterious Realms, and of course our very own Late Night in the Midlands. So when you think of a network that takes an interest in everything, think of a network that covers everything. The LNM Radio Network, exploring the truth and exposing the lies, day and night. For the full lineup on times and dates of the shows we generate, go to www.latenightinthe-midlands.com and click the On-Air Schedule tab at the top of the website. We want to stick around and continue to bring you the best guests and the best shows from around the globe with the best information. And we cannot do it without your support. So please, spread our content as much as you can and donate on the website by going to www.latenightinthe-midlands.com, and on the right side of the page you will see the donate buttons, and you can rest assured that every penny you donate goes to help the LNM Radio Network stay on the air and expose the world one truth. There is a condition 1 out of every 3 people around the world suffer with. RMS. A condition that can be crippling. RMS. A condition that causes confusion and discomfort, rapid pounding of a fist on tables, and unwillingness to watch the fake news. RMS. Restless mind syndrome. You may not have heard of it, but if you are one of the millions suffering from this condition, there is now hope. You do not have to go through life not knowing what to do next, or how to rid yourself of this health-bearing condition, now being recognized by doctors, lawyers, and victims all over the world. The cure? LNM. Just listen to this testimonial by one of our subscribers.
I can say true to my heart that LNM worked for me. I stood up day and night confused by what the fake news has told me. I could not even take care of my family or hold a job. I couldn't even get off the couch to do anything, and I knew there was a problem. Now, since I've been on LMN, my family life is back, and I'm waking up more people than ever around the world.
Now you know what you can do to put an end to restless mind syndrome. Ask your doctor about LNM and ask if it's right for you. LNM should not be taken without a prescription. It should never be taken while on drugs like Fox News, MSNBC, CNN. You should also tell your doctor if you take Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, or Randy Rhoads serious. Side effects of LNM include waking up, spreading truth, passing out cards and flyers. Other side effects may include, but not limited to, the expansion of mind and thought, arguments with sheeple, high blood pressure, preparedness, mood swings, and the feeling of a need to get involved. If you see chemtrails after you have begun using LNM, contact your state and local officials immediately, because this could be a sign you're waking up. LNM, because you don't have to live in the dark with RMS anymore.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mike at toughreality.com. Thank you so much for listening in. Our call-in number today is 347-989-1012. That's 347-989-1012. If you do call in, you can decide to just listen on the air if you'd like to on your phone. Or if you want to come on the air, make sure you hit the 1 key so that I know that you want to come on. Now, we have a wonderful guest today. We're talking about the Your Rancho book. We're talking about his book, and we're going to get into all kinds of great questions. I know I have tons of questions now, but his name is Jerry Lane, and he's written a book here that we're going to talk about, and we're going to shift gears in a minute into that. But we were talking about the Your Rancho book, and I made a misstatement about, I think I said Mary. So correct me, Jerry, and make sure I say it right. And I apologize for the mistake.
Oh, yes, Mike. I guess generally speaking, at least to me, Mary refers to the mother of Jesus, and she was actually very much a human being, and Mother Spirit is just like Michael, a compatriot to Michael, is a creator son of God. She's a creator daughter of God, and came out from paradise hundreds of billions of years ago with him, and together they created and are administering our local universe. So
wow.
She's very distinct, and she's Michael and Mother Spirit. For most of the world, just call them gods. They're hundreds of billions of years old, and they have these creative abilities. And also, as I mentioned, personally, they're very much a part of us, a part of our mind. Mother Spirit, think of her as being a dimension that we're in. In other words, she's all around us, and she's right in our mind. And what she does is we have our brain, our physical brain, capable of thinking. But what she does is actually augment these different spiritual and mental capacities, like intuition, knowledge, understanding, courage. There's 7 of these dimensions of our mind that she actually is in our mind helping us along with. So they're actually part of us. And, of course, Michael has his spirit of truth, which he describes as an orientation towards truth. It's an orientation towards something that's larger than us. So that's in the sense we have these spiritual parents right as part of us, and this is where we can pray to them, and we can get answers from them in our mind if we're open enough. Also, in our meditations, we can just instead of actually addressing a prayer to them, we can just take some time out of our life to meditate and just say, "Okay, here I am. What have you got for me?" You know.
Wow.
So that's who Michael and Mother Spirit are.
Who created them?
God.
Now, in the Christian Bible, they call him Jehovah or some name like that. So, does he have any special name or just God?
The Rancho book, in the first book of it, in other words, when they're talking about the whole creation, they talk about just the first person of deity, if you will. In other words, in every religion and every different world, he has different names.
Right.
But he's in the sense of he's the primal cause in that sense, in a theological sense. He is the creator. Everything stems from him. He's the first person of deity. What he does is creates then the second person of deity. In Christianity, is called the Son, the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit.
Right.
In the Rancho book, they call that's the eternal Son. And then also there's the infinite Spirit. So that's the Trinity. Is they designate the names of the Trinity. You can think of Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. They call it like the first person of deity, second person, the third person, in a more kind of abstract sense. But God is the primal creator of everything. Everything essentially comes from him. But also, the Rancho book talks about a presence of God within our mind also, along with Michael and Mother Spirit. Now, this is something most religions of the world acknowledge, that I think in Christianity and Judaism they talk about a small, still voice within.
Yes.
It's distinct. It's not our conscience. Our conscience is just pretty much what our society tells us to do. Right. As you mentioned Hitler, if you'd been raised in a certain time in Germany, you would have had no conscience a bad conscience about doing some of those evil things they did.
Right.
This the presence of God in our mind is just much greater than that. But it's also something in our prayer and meditation. They say God can actually answer these if we're just open to it. So in other words, Michael and Mother Spirit actually come from the Trinity, come from God, and you imagine being hundreds of billions of years old, creating this part of the galaxy, and then literally being a part of all of their children's lives on millions of worlds. They're pretty fantastic beings when you think about it.
Well, I agree with you, and this is very interesting. So, do we have an opportunity to, any time in the future, create our own world? I wonder.
They talk about that as maybe you might be talking about hundreds of millions of years in the future, and that is we will never become quite what they are. The Urantia book talks about millions and millions of years from now, when we are really fully evolved. We still have exploration to do. We still have an enormous universe. We never run out of it. You might say new adventures to do and things to confront. But we never become. They call it about the core of the mortal finality. In other words, we were one time mortal beings, so we're a very distinct kind of being. We'll never be a creator son and or daughter of God like they are. But we will never stop growing in our creative abilities.
Okay, so are we immortal then?
If you choose to be. In other words, eternal life is not forced on anyone. But if you choose to kind of get with the program, in other words, God's will, there is God's will that extends throughout all of creation. And in one way, you have to kind of you have to continue to keep growing into this. You can't ever stop. You can't ever say, okay, this is where I'm stopping, I've had enough. That itself would be a kind of death. So as long as you're willing to keep growing and keep evolving your soul, there's no end to that. But that is a choice.
Wow.
I mean, you actually have the choice of whether to continue or not.
Well, where would you go? Would you just cease to exist if you chose not to?
Exactly. In other words, there have been individuals who this has occurred. One of them is as someone we call the head of our local system of about 600 planets. Was a being called Lucifer, and he caused. There actually was a kind of a Lucifer rebellion 200,000 years ago, and since then this being has ceased to exist. He was just so evil, and he was so refusing to acknowledge God or to go along with God's ways that he essentially just kind of winked out. He pretty much, in the sense, if you choose to go against the way of the universe, you will cease to exist.
Wow. And so in the next world, then, is there less evil or same evil or no evil?
There's almost none, because those extremely evil people, in a sense, will choose to. They'll be so much pain of just what they've caused, the kind of beings they are, But for 99.999% of the people, just the very fact that you have survived. I mean, all of a sudden you've died, and yet here you are, and you were in this much more glorious. They go to some pains to try to explain this the glorious reality you will find yourself in, even though it's only the first stage of an eternal life. It's so much more spiritual and soulful than what we know here. It'd be like think of all the most beautiful, wonderful people you know. That's pretty much what everybody becomes, because you've had your life, and here you still are, and the way you can see each other.
What about this? So here, they talk about like the rat race. You're always trying to make money. You're always trying to get ahead. You're always trying. does it give an indication of what the next world is going to be like as far as economics, or maybe there isn't even economics? I don't know.
There's always economics insofar as you're always dealing with a kind of a potential eternal life that you have, right? Mm-hmm. And yet part of one of the main lessons they teach is that each moment of existence is unique. If you want to think of it this way, God is has such creative power, he doesn't have to repeat himself. In other words, any kind of repetition or boredom that you get into, that's a very human thing. That the universe, reality itself is not repeating. Every moment, existentialism gets into this, that every moment is unique. Mm-hmm. Not only of your life, but of everything all around you. The whole universe is actually evolving, and you have to kind of get with the program. You continue to evolve yourself.
Wow, that's very interesting. So,
but there's always limitations. There's always an economic factor. If nothing else, then time. Uh-huh. You only have so much time, in a sense, to do a specific thing, right?
Uh-huh. Okay, very interesting. So in this next world, then, we really, like, the Christian Bible talks about, you die, you go to heaven, you go to hell. But when you go to heaven, there's really no explanation about what's going on. I mean, they talk about, you're praising God and this, that, and the other. But it sounds to me like, we have millions of worlds, millions of experiences, millions of human experiences to go through, even to get to our first-year birthday, Well,
exactly. In other words, they're saying incarnation is, what most people think of it, is one human life after another, maybe having to come back here. Even the really primitive notions of reincarnation, where if you had an evil life, then you would have to come back as a dog or a cow or something, right?
Right.
What they're saying is that there's a lot of reincarnation that is true insofar as you will go on to have a whole series of lives, you might say, just in terms of being on different worlds. You might be part of, as you get to be more of a spiritual being, you might go and spend some time on another actual physical planet like the Earth. In other words, all kinds of things are open to you like this, being like a student visitor to another planet like ours. There's no limit to all these different things you have to go through to be a well-rounded personality.
Wow.
This is also the Urantia book, when it gets into, like I say, the second book of the local universe, when it gets into enormous detail, it also, I want to also mention there's a whole scientific aspect to it. It talks about how suns and planets are formed, how material itself, how atoms and things come into existence. So when you open your Urantia book, what I did, Mike, when I first encountered it, no one had told me anything about it, right? And
right.
The first 60-some pages were like pure theology. It's like reading Thomas Aquinas or something, the nature of God. And so what I'm recommending to all of your listeners, when they pick up their Urantia book, and I think they're about $15 or so on Amazon.com. You can even get used ones. There's later on I'll give you. There's about a dozen websites you can go on to and just read it. You don't even have to buy it. You can just go there. But I recommend everybody go to the table of contents and look through it, because you're looking at philosophy, theology, cosmology, history, on and on and on, that just kind of just go through this and find out what piques your curiosity, right? You don't have to start at the beginning and read it straight through. I know a lot of my friends, they just get bogged down in the theology, or they're not interested in the science part of it. Right. They go right to the fourth book and they just read the life of Jesus, which is a narrative. The first three sections of the Urantia book are just descriptions of stuff. The fourth book, the life of Jesus, is just a narrative, but it's his entire life. I mean, all the parts that are missing in the Bible. It's all there from the time he was conceived to the time. There's so many things that are missing in the Bible. The fact that he had 7 brothers and sisters.
Wow, 7.
And when he was 17 years old, Joseph, his father, got killed was a foreman in a project, got killed. And so when Jesus was 17 years old, all of a sudden he's the head of a family of 7 younger brothers and sisters. That's not in the Bible at all.
Wow.
On and on and on. I mean, I could go on forever about.
Okay, now let me ask you a question here, because I've also read the Book of Enoch, and you've probably heard of that. And
Right.
I've also read some books by Zechariah Sitchin about the Sumerians. So do these all tie in together in this Urantia book?
Okay, now we're getting into the third section of the Urantia book, which is the history of the planet.
Ah.
So it starts out in a spiral nebula that in time spins off like 50 million suns and planetary systems. That's where it starts.
Wow.
It gets into our whole our sun and the way the planets were formed, and it goes in like 100 million year segments of the evolution of the planet. At a certain time, along come beings called high spiritual beings called life carriers that actually start life on the planets. There's life doesn't just spontaneously arise; it's actually created. And so it recapitulates in this section of the Urantia book. It recapitulates the whole evolution of life, clear into all the way until all of a sudden human beings appear.
Wow!
It talks about that. It has endless chapters on the first human beings. And how life is, it resolves that conflict between was life created or evolution, did it just happen, or was it divinely inspired? What's both? Evolution is actually controlled by spiritual beings, including Mother Spirit, actually controls the evolution of life.
Wow.
And then it has like the first human beings, and then from that on it has a recapitulation of human history. We're talking about it has chapters called the evolution of government, the evolution of the family, the evolution of religion. This is in the third section of the Urantia book.
Third section. Now, how many sections are there in the Urantia book?
Okay, there's 4 sections. The first is the overall, you might say, overall creation. The second one is our local universe, our local part of the galaxy. The third book is the history of the planet, and including the evolution of life, and then the evolution of civilization. The fourth book is the complete life of Jesus from the time he was conceived. There's no virgin birth. It goes into both the Mary's and Joseph's background. It starts out saying he was conceived and carried to birth like every other human being that ever was. So Michael did not even know he was a creator, son of God, for quite a while. He had his whole childhood up until about the time he was 30 years old. He was an extremely advanced human being, but it wasn't until his baptism by John that he actually discovered and realized that he was a creator, son of God. And that's why he had to go off for 40 days to think of what do I do now?
That's incredible. Okay,
and
well,
that's one of the most touching things I've ever transmitted is when Michael talks about all of a sudden becoming aware that he's this creator, son of God, that he's hundreds of billions of years old, and yet he's still walking along and he can feel the dust between his toes.
That's incredible.
He has to go out and make some. What do I do now?
I love this. Okay, well, we're going to have to take a second break here real quick, and then I want to shift gears and move into your book. I have some very specific questions I want to ask you for that. I might come back and forth to this Urantia book. And there's so many questions popping in my head right now. So I'm going to go ahead and put you on hold. And ladies and gentlemen, this stuff is very, very interesting to me. I love study. I love literature. I love reading. And, I love filling in the gaps. Sometimes we hear history, we hear different things, and sometimes we wonder where we came from, where we're going, and this is very, very interesting material. So it's Mike. I'll see you on the other side.
Is it possible to read a person's thoughts? Can we implant thoughts also? Is there evidence of the existence of God? Does USGS records show increases in earthquakes due to nuclear testing? Author Jose Collazo says yes, and he has the proof in his 3 books titled America's New Slavery, fMRI Technology, America's New Slavery Behind the Scenes and Update, God Does Exist, No More Nuclear Testing, and much more. Researched under the Freedom of Information Act and other sources, Jose Collazo has the proof to most of his claims and is investigating others. You can get copies of his books on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or www.xlibris.com. That's www.xlibris.com. Or you can click the book banner on the main page right next to the chat room on www.latenightinthe.midlands.com. Get your copy now. You're listening to the LNM Radio Network. Check out Crystal's TLC. Hit the Avon link to view a full line of 100% guaranteed Avon products. See and order their specialty scented, long-burning soy candles. And while you're at it, check out their other great products from tie-dye to incense. At some point, your power may go out. Crystal's TLC has you covered there too. I have been in the same house with others when power is out and water is not running, and let me tell you, it not only gets dark at night, but the odors become very present. That's why Crystal's TLC's unscented and scented candles are perfect to use now or keep on hand in case of an emergency. Their candles are produced especially from Crystal's TLC and come in a wide variety. You can order directly from the website at www.crystalstlc.com and bring peace of mind and beauty into your life. www.crystalstlc.com. There is a condition 1 out of every 3 people around the world suffer with.
RMS.
A condition that can be crippling.
RMS.
A condition that causes confusion and discomfort, rapid pounding of a fist on tables, and unwillingness to watch the fake news.
RMS.
Restless mind syndrome. You may not have heard of it, but if you are one of the millions suffering from this condition, there is now hope. You do not have to go through life not knowing what to do next or how to rid yourself of this health-bearing condition, now being recognized by doctors, lawyers, and victims all over the world. The cure? LNM. Just listen to this testimonial by one of our subscribers.
I can say true to my heart that LNM worked for me. I stood up day and night confused by what the fake news has told me. I could not even take care of my family or hold a job. I couldn't even get off the couch to do anything, and I knew there was a problem. Now, since I've been on LMN, my family life is back, and I'm waking up more people than ever around the world.
Now you know what you can do to put an end to restless mind syndrome. Ask your doctor about LNM and ask if it's right for you. LNM should not be taken without a prescription. It should never be taken while on drugs like Fox News, MSNBC, CNN. You should also tell your doctor if you take Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, or Randy Rhoads serious. Side effects of LNM include waking up, spreading truth, passing out cards and flyers. Other side effects may include, but not limited to, the expansion of mind and thought, arguments with sheeple, high blood pressure, preparedness, mood swings, and the feeling of a need to get involved. If you see chemtrails after you have begun using LNM, contact your state and local officials immediately, because this could be a sign you're waking up. LNM, because you don't have to live in the dark with RMS anymore.
I got a gal who's always late.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? This is Mike at Tough Reality, toughreality.com. Our phone number today is 347-989-1012. That's 347-989-1012. Call in, hit the 1 key on your key phone pad there, and I'll know you want to come on the air. I have many people listening on their phones right now, and you're welcome to do that. But if you'd like to come on the air, go ahead and give me a call and hit the 1 key. Also, if you have any questions, you can type them into the chat sessions. We have chat sessions open on Skype open up on Blog Talk, open up on LNM, all over the place. You can also email me at mike@toughreality.com, and you can follow us all over the Internet. So anyway, we have a very, very special guest today. His name's Jerry Lane. And we've been talking about the Rancho book. We've been talking about creation. We've been talking about different beings and gods and how we're going from world to world as we learn more and more. And, you know, this for me is eye-opening, Jerry.
Well, you know, Mike, you right at the very end there, you mentioned something that it didn't occur to me for a while is until I'd read the Rancho book a couple times, that the greatest gift of all was tying the way it gives us a language and a context, you might say, to understand so many things, everything from philosophy to science to psychology to creation to the life and times of Jesus, the whole history of our planet. All of this all of a sudden occurs to you that it's given you a way of tying all these things together that until recent times we know the theologians didn't get along with the hard science people too good, right?
Right. That's right.
Total contempt for each other.
That's right.
So it bridges all these different realms of human knowledge and understanding in a again, it's like I say, it took me a couple of years to read it all. I caution your listeners that it is an enormous lifetime study, but it is the one book to have with you on a desert island. If you're stranded on a desert island, it'd be the one book to have with you.
I like that. You know, I'm going to go look right after the show because I want to go. First of all, find it online, but I'm in China, so I like to listen. Hopefully, I can find an MP3 version of it someplace, and that would be very very interesting for me.
They do have it. I know that. From time to time, I've just ordered 10 books at a time, just to kind of give out and things. And recently, they do come with a little CD. You can actually listen to it.
Oh.
So it is out there in CD. You said later I would definitely want to give some websites that you can understand it. Like, let's see, close to 30 years ago when I first encountered it, no one had ever heard of it. It was very, very rare. And you almost become like, you feel after you've read it, you become a very funny kind of person because there's hardly anybody you can talk to about it. It's so, it's so enormous. Now there's a thing called just UB websites, Urantia Book websites that has over 300 references to the Urantia Book, including a number of websites that actually have the Urantia Book. But as you can imagine, a lot of people call it a cult or religion, and it's really neither one of these. It's just we call it just a presentation. It's a gift from the spiritual community. They just felt we were ready for it. At a certain time in planetary evolution, every single planet would get this kind of information just given to them from the spiritual community. And so a final kind of mystery that I want to just kind of tease you with, okay?
Okay.
Who wrote it? Who wrote this thing in the late 1930s and early 40s? So let's think about a blackboard about, several hundred yards long, okay? And on this blackboard, you're going to have to outline, you're going to have to, like everything from scientists to theologians, you're going to have atomic scientists to talk about the creation of matter. You're going to have some kind of fantastic writers to write about 600 pages of the life of Jesus. You're going to have all the people talking about, they're going to have the evolution of planetary life. And then you're going to have some folks who just think up the whole idea of the first book covers, right? Is that the whole creation and all these spiritual beings, and we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of pages, so you're going to have a blackboard, a pretty big blackboard, for all these folks to get together and outline the book, right? You see what I mean?
Yes.
We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of people and tens of thousands of hours to outline the book in order to, neither myself, Mike, nor anybody I know who's read it has ever found a single internal inconsistency across all these realms of human, disciplines. And so,
Jerry,
so so it gets into the question of who actually wrote this thing.
Who?
Again, when you go into the table of contents, they're all extra human spiritual beings who wrote all these different chapters. And there's about 30 different kinds of beings who wrote all these different chapters. The section on the life of Jesus was actually written by a kind of being that was on the earth at that time. In other words, this is actually what happened by an eyewitness account. This isn't someone making this. This isn't a lot of people who read the Bible and then came up with their own version. This is so the literary claim of the Urantia book is enormous.
Incredible. Well, was there some person that got all the information together? I mean, how did they? Was it found in a library someplace? Where did you get it from?
Now we're getting into another mystery. By the way, there are several books that have come out about the origins of the Urantia book. It's called The Origin of the Urantia Papers, if you want to look into that. But very, very briefly, around the early 1920s in the University of Chicago, they were every year a whole bunch of the early psychologists would get together and argue, like Jung and Freud and Adler and all these different psychologists.
Right.
And there was a person by the name of Gene Sadler who his hobby was working with the police and even in the FBI and debunking all kind of spiritualist phenomena, like table thumping and we'll contact your Uncle Earl and see where he buried the gold, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But all of a sudden he announced to this group of psychologists that he'd actually run into someone who was bringing across some material that was not only coherent. This wasn't just madness. It wasn't silly, but it was very, very, very far out. And so he asked for a lot of volunteers. And I forget now exactly myself, but it was like 200 or 300 people volunteered to become what they call the Contact Commission. And then it did come through. The Urantia book was not channeled as like, a lot of material like I did. Like my book was channeled through me. The Course of Miracles was channeled. The Urantia books, they said, like you would simply have seen a pencil just writing in the air. In other words, the kind of being who actually wrote the Urantia book, all these pages of it, was actually invisible to us. It's called a secondary midware, but that's, again, something I don't want to get into too much detail here.
Wow.
But the Urantia book, it appeared on yellow legal paper, and then they would, this back in the 1930s, right, so they would take a mimeograph, they would mimeograph the material. All these 200 or 300 people would read the material, and if they had questions, these things would be answered by this unseen being. In other words, all these different authors, these different kind of celestial beings would actually be coming through the secondary midware. That's actually, in other words, this all sounds like total unbelievable hokum, right? Except I can put a physical book in your hand.
I know. This was so amazing.
It sounds silly. It sounds like some kind of science, Ray Bradbury, Star Trek science fiction, but it actually exists. I mean, it's a physical book. Wow. And when the more and more you read it, the more and more you realize that several hundred people didn't, spend years and tens of thousands of hours to write this thing in the perfection that it's written in. So it actually, the Urantia book itself was not channeled. It was actually given to us. And at the end of a number of years, the first three books, the first three sections of the book, the 600 pages or so of the life and times of Jesus came through in just one. But by then they had tuned into us enough to know what we were capable of understanding. The whole part of Jesus just came through in one go. And then it took from about the early of course, along came the Second World War. And so it wasn't until 1955 is the first publishing. In other words, the Urantia book was first published in 1955. It's since been translated into over 12 languages and tens of millions of them, in other words, all over the world.
Right.
About 1992, in different I think the first one was in New Zealand. These are just study groups. There's no religion. There's no cult here. Just different study groups all over the world. About 1992, somebody in New England says, "Hey, I'm getting this material coming through me, right?" And this is what we call the teaching mission, the beginning of the teaching mission. And so, from 1992 till today, if you go to a website called TM Archives, like we can get into these later, but there's been over 5,000 of these lessons then that have come through in what I'm doing. It's called the teaching mission.
Wow.
And there's all kinds of beings being transmitted or channeled, and my own specialty, you might say, is transmitting Michael and Mother Spirit.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about that right now. It's a good place to break it off.
Right.
You've written a book here, and it's called The Adventures of Being Human, correct?
Right. The Adventure of Being Human. Right.
Adventure of Being Human. And so, what is this human adventure then?
It's a whole situation that God has put us in. Is Michael and Mother Spirit in their lessons? They say we're human beings are kind of plopped down into a situation in which it's kind of an unavoidable adventure. And they define an adventure as being in a situation where you don't know what's going to happen next. Now, it could be, shall we say, hanging by your fingernails out on some rocky ledge over a 300-foot drop or something, right?
Yeah.
Or it could be as you get up in the morning and brush your teeth, have your breakfast, and as you go off to work, as you drive off to work, you don't know what somebody's going to plow into you, right?
Yes.
In other words, human life, they're trying to reassure us that this adventure part of human life is actually by God's design. It's the way He chooses to raise His children, and not only us, but I say this whole hierarchy of personal beings. We're all in this situation. We're all in the middle of a gigantic creation that we can't entirely anticipate, as best we try to, of course, right? We can't entirely anticipate what's coming next. So
so our creator sort of likes this.
In other words, this adventure we find ourselves in was deliberately created. It's not that we're doing something wrong. That we can't pin ourselves down, or we can't pin each other down, right?
Yeah.
It's designed this way. The whole adventure is designed because, as Michael put it, otherwise eternity would be hell. If eternity was just a repetition
of the same
you
thing.
can't imagine a more profound hell of being in an eternity in which everything keeps happening. And so they're saying the very fact that reality itself, God's creation, is not repeating itself. Now, it does physically. Obviously, we have all of our science, right? Causality.
Right.
But Mike, you and I don't know exactly. I don't even know. Even now, I'm following a train of thought, but I don't know exactly what I'm going to say 5 minutes from now. You know what I mean? We're all involved in, and so we're involved. Personal beings, we're involved in enormous creativity. We're kind of creating ourselves as we go along. So this is the adventure.
And the thing that's interesting about it, and I'm trying to, oh my God, like I said, so many thoughts going through my head right now because you've just expanded my brain a little bit. And for example, the Israel and Iran is having this crisis. So my question is then, is somebody overseeing that, or is it just creating itself as we go along, and we don't know if there's going to be peace over there or war? What are your thoughts on something like that?
Well, as they teach, it's a little bit of combination of both. In other words, the fact that every individual can tune into a kind of a divine over control, right? But since so many people aren't doing that, so many people are not praying, they're not meditating, right? They're just kind of going up from their own ego standpoint of who they are. They don't see themselves as Michael and Mother Spirit see us. That's why we still have all this warfare. I mean, that's why the most obscene things. You think of like in Syria there, where somebody 5 miles away is firing an artillery shell.
Yeah.
And you know, they don't know where exactly that's going to land, but it's just 70,000 people now just in this one little thing. Michael and Mother Spirit say when you look at the world, you're looking at almost 1 million years of human. That's how long we've been around, human beings. Almost incessant warfare. I mean, right down to the Second World War, where tens of millions of people died. So, to a large degree, it's in our hands. And the spiritual community, even though they have the power, they could step in and make it paradise overnight. This whole thing of free will. This is where, again, you get into a lot of Christian theology, talks about the fact that God gives us a measure of free will, and so our life is ours. It's not just, in other words, no one's going to just step in and take control, and even to end all the pain and bloodshed. So much of our life is in our hands. That's part of the adventure.
Very interesting. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this book then, and really how it came about for you? Okay.
Well, you remember that the poet Robert Burns, he had that wonderful thing, is that what a gift God could give us to see ourselves as others see us.
Yes.
Right. What a gift God could give us to see ourselves as others see us. So this is essentially what the adventure human being, it's mostly the lessons of Michael and Mother Spirit. I gave right here in my home, usually to like 5 or 6 people. You know, I've had a couple loyal followers all these years. And so it's about half of their lessons, and the other half is just questions and answers. In other words, if you're sitting in my living room and you have a chance to ask Michael a question, what would it be? And this is what Michael and Mother Spirit, they say, this is the greatest gift you can bring to these sessions, is a question you really don't know. In other words, this is an opportunity to ask something you really want to know. And so the questions and answers in the book are, to me, also one of the greatest parts of it is just, you know, ordinary folks, always just sitting around, you know. It's the questions that come up to ask, and then the answers that Mother Spirit and Michael give them. So that's, you might say, that's a full half of the book right there. The other part is that because there is, we have Byron Belitos, who's been promulgating and the Urantia book for about 30 years. I've known him for about 15 years or so. He wrote, there's a glossary, there's like 5 different glossaries, like on the Urantia book, on who Michael and Mother Spirit are, on things like this, a little bit of a glossary of the terms being used. I wrote a prologue and an afterword for the whole thing, just to introduce folks to this material, kind of what we're talking about now.
Right.
So this is what constitutes a book. It's mostly just the lessons of Michael and Mother Spirit in the first year. In other words, when they were kind of like laying the groundwork for who they are, right? Wow. And then most of the book is how they see us. It's that gift that God could give us. It's how they see us. And so their lessons, in a sense, it's like, we thought about an alternative title would be Owner's Manual for Human Beings. You know, like when you get a car or a motorcycle?
Yeah.
So you get a book that tells about all the parts, right? Well, this is what they're kind of introducing us to ourselves.
I like that.
They're telling us how they, our spiritual parents, see us. And so, Mike, the great gift of all of this material is being able to see each other this way.
Oh, I like that. So in this material, you talk about it being transmitted.
Yeah, a lot of people call that channeling. It's something that, like I say, years and years ago, I just ran across, somebody mentioned the Urantia book, and I ran across it, and like I say, it took me a couple of years to get through it, because I started reading, I thought the whole thing was like 2,000 pages of theology, which is why I tell your listeners to open that table of contents and just go through it. You might be interested in how planets are formed, or how life was established on the Earth. So all of a sudden, I became aware of, I don't remember now exactly how, but over in San Francisco, there was a meeting of just Urantia students, right? Urantia book students. And so I contacted a group here in Marin County, and this is where Byron Belitos, he's the guy who edited my book. This is where I met him, and it was just a Urantia study group. So we'd get together once a week and just talk about it. And after several years of this, we had about a dozen people in our group, and we have parties from time to time. And all over the world, there are these Urantia study groups, so your listeners can probably find one near them if they're interested, right?
Wow.
And we just get together and talk about this enormous thing, right? We call it the Big Blue Book. I guess it looks like a complete works of Shakespeare, this huge thing. And after a couple years of this, we got the word that in different study groups all around the world, people are getting new material, new Urantia-type material. And, of course, we didn't believe it either. We thought, well, this some kooky person thinks they can rewrite the Urantia book or something, It's like the height. It was like the height of arrogance to think that you could actually be transmitting celestial beings, right?
Right.
And so, but then there's a girl by the name of Donna D'Angelo came out from St. Louis to our group, and I talked with her for about, when I met her, and I talked with her, we talked for about half an hour or so. But when she started transmitting, again, it was like all of a sudden a totally different personality, a completely different kind of being. And it wasn't probably for about a dozen of these, after about a dozen weeks and about a dozen of these meetings with Donna, her little group there. It has to slowly sink in that this might be real. Even in my own group, I've had people come in and say, well, Jerry, how can I believe any of this? And I said, well, you can't yet. You haven't earned that yet. Your own sense of inner honesty shouldn't even allow you to believe anything blindly, right? You just have to expose yourself to it and entertain it and, decide one way or the other. I mean, a lot of people probably think the whole thing is hokey,
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's what we say on our show here at Tough Reality, is that we provide information for people. What they do with the information is up to them. They have to decide if it's going to be beneficial for their lives and what they're doing. So the adventures of this, of the human, the book that you wrote, The Adventures of Being Human, is really based on the teaching of this Urantia book, right? So
exactly. That's the larger context, right?
Yeah. So what's the premise of your book?
The premise would be this one I said is like see ourselves as our spiritual parents see us, and of course it introduces not only Michael but Mother Spirit, who you can think of there's no other counterpart except in the Urantia book. So first of all, it assures us we have these spiritual parents. The other thing is that they are part of us. As you begin to understand and read the book, you understand like how I went into this a little bit before, like how we actually have these spiritual presences within us. And so a lot of it is they teach a certain kind of meditation. They just call it stillness, where you just get up in the morning and maybe you spend half an hour just being still, not particularly praying. Because in other words, any prayer you ask or asking for help, you can do that too. But meditating, this kind of meditation, for me, was the closest thing to was a kind of I was with the Zen community out here for a while, of Zazen, where you're just sitting and you're just, in a sense, what you're saying is, okay, God, Michael, Mother Spirit, what have you got for me today? And so this is just being still with yourself and see what your larger self and the spiritual presences within you have to give you. So that's part of it. Part of it is teaching a kind of meditation. A lot of it is answering all these questions and answers that come up.
Okay, well, I tell you what we're going to do, Jerry, is I want to go ahead and take both of my breaks sort of at the same time and give you a full 30 minutes. Because if people have questions, they can ask questions. But I want you to, we're going to continue and talk about these God beings. I want to talk about them. But I also want you to pull out maybe a few things that you find very interesting inside of the transmittings that you've received from these beings. Okay?
Sure enough.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. We're going to take this break. It'll be about 4 or 5 minutes, and I'll see you guys on the other side.
Is there proof of God's existence in our government's records? Author Jose Collazo brings his years of research into this stunning question to light in God Does Exist, No More Nuclear Testing, and more. Touching on little-known government projects such as the Remote Viewers Program and Active Auroral Research Program, Collazo has uncovered some amazing discoveries through his research and use of the Freedom of Information Act. From uncovered information on the Ark of the Covenant to connections between natural disasters and nuclear testing, experience this revealing look into our government's obscure and hidden work. Discover how new and experimental technologies may change our world forever and uncover monumental proof and answers to mankind's greatest questions in God Does Exist, No More Nuclear Testing, and more.
Hello, this is Michael Vera for CureShop.com with products endorsed by Dr. Leonard Horowitz, including Liquid Dentist, a one-stop defense system for not only your mouth, but your whole body. This unprecedented product aggressively attacks the critters that cause oral diseases using concentrated microfine silver plus oxygen and minerals to help reverse tooth decay and gum diseases, helping repair your teeth and gums naturally. Then, by swallowing this amazing and good-tasting tooth and gum saver, you actually get a natural, nutritional immunization against more than 1,000 strains of oral bacteria and viruses when you swallow. Liquid Dentist is awesome for boosting natural immunity. Imagine your teeth feeling hygienic clean and super smooth for up to 3 days after each use. Swish with it 3 minutes or more after brushing and flossing. Gargle to freshen and protect your throat, and then swallow Liquid Dentist. Wow, what a great idea. It's all natural, healing, and protective. Dr. Horowitz developed Liquid Dentist based on emerging science from England showing a 20-second exposure to medical-grade ozone kills germs deep within decay, even down to the nerve. Then highly concentrated mineral mouth rinsing can remineralize your teeth and harden them, even harder than they were originally. This way, teeth can be saved and not drilled away or lost due to decay or tooth fracture. Plus, Liquid Dentist kills periodontal germs and leaves your breath fresh and teeth feeling professionally clean for days. Go to liquiddentist.net to learn more, or go to CureShop.com. That's CureShop.com. CureShoppe.com to order your supply of Liquid Dentist today, or call toll-free 1-888-621-7611. That's 1-888-621-7611. Call now to save your smile. You're listening to the LNM Radio Network. The LNM Radio Network covers it all with great shows like Tough Reality, Paranormal Perception, The Hurricane Hour, Angel's Lighthouse, Mysterious Realms, and of course our very own Late Night in the Midlands. So when you think of a network that takes an interest in everything, think of a network that covers everything. The LNM Radio Network, exploring the truth and exposing the lies day and night. For the full lineup on times and dates of the shows we generate, go to www.latenightinthe-midlands.com and click the On-Air Schedule tab at the top of the website. We want to stick around and continue to bring you the best guests and the best shows from around the globe with the best information. And we cannot do it without your support. So please spread our content as much as you can and donate on the website by going to www.latenightinthe-midlands.com, and on the right side of the page you will see the donate buttons, and you can rest assured that every penny you donate goes to help the LNM Radio Network stay on the air and expose the world one truth. Is it possible to read a person's thoughts? Can we implant thoughts also? Is there evidence of the existence of God? Does USGS records show increases in earthquakes due to nuclear testing? Author Jose Collazo says yes, and he has the proof in his 3 books titled America's New Slavery, fMRI Technology, America's New Slavery Behind the Scenes and Update, God Does Exist, no more nuclear testing, and much more. Researched under the Freedom of Information Act and other sources, Jose Collazo has the proof to most of his claims and is investigating others. You can get copies of his books on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or www.xlibris.com. That's www.xlibris.com. Or you can click the book banner on the main page right next to the chat room on www.latenightinthemidlands.com. Get your copy now. You're listening to the LNM Radio Network. Check out Crystal's TLC. Hit the Avon link to view a full line of 100% guaranteed Avon products. See and order their specialty scented, long-burning soy candles. And while you're at it, check out their other great products from tie-dye to incense. At some point, your power may go out, and Crystal's TLC has you covered there too. I have been in the same house with others when power is out and water is not running, and let me tell you, it not only gets dark at night, but the odors become very present. That's why Crystal's TLC's unscented and scented candles are perfect to use now or keep on hand in case of an emergency. Their candles are produced especially from Crystal's TLC and come in a wide variety. You can order directly from the website at www.crystalstlc.com and bring peace of mind and beauty into your life. www.crystalstlc.com. There is a condition 1 out of every 3 people around the world suffer with.
RMS.
A condition that can be crippling.
RMS.
A condition that causes confusion and discomfort, rapid pounding of a fist on tables, and unwillingness to watch the fake news.
RMS.
Restless mind syndrome. You may not have heard of it, but if you are one of the millions suffering from this condition, there is now hope. You do not have to go through life not knowing what to do next or how to rid yourself of this health-bearing condition, now being recognized by doctors, lawyers, and victims all over the world. The cure? LNM. Just listen to this testimonial by one of our subscribers.
I can say true to my heart that LNM worked for me. I stood up day and night confused by what the fake news has told me. I could not even take care of my family or hold a job. I couldn't even get off the couch to do anything, and I knew there was a problem. Now, since I've been on LMN, my family life is back, and I'm waking up more people than ever around the world.
Now you know what you can do to put an end to restless mind syndrome. Ask your doctor about LNM and ask if it's right for you. LNM should not be taken without a prescription. It should never be taken while on drugs like Fox News, MSNBC, CNN. You should also tell your doctor if you take Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, or Randy Rhoads serious. Side effects of LNM include waking up, spreading truth, passing out cards and flyers. Other side effects may include, but not limited to, the expansion of mind and thought, arguments with sheeple, high blood pressure, preparedness, mood swings, and the feeling of a need to get involved. If you see chemtrails after you have begun using LNM, contact your state and local officials immediately, because this could be a sign you're waking up. LNM, because you don't have to live in the dark with RMS anymore.
All right, everybody, this is Mike at Tough Reality, toughreality.com. Thank you so much for listening. I say shout out to all my listeners all throughout the world. Thank you very much for listening. If you want to call in, you can call in at 347-989-1012. That's 347-989-1012. Now, we have an awesome guest today named Jerry. We've been talking about the Urantia book. We've also been talking about his book that he's written in reference to the Urantia book, and his book's called The Adventure of Being Human. Now, that we're going to go ahead and continue to talk about that. We're also going to ask Jerry for some interesting examples or anecdotes from his book. But we were talking a little bit about what the Urantia book talks about, the people who actually created us. So let's go ahead and pick that up. Who, and we were talking about this, who and what are Michael and, listen, Mother Spirit. So last time I called her Mary, I apologize. So go ahead, Jerry, give us up a little bit of an overview of who and what they are.
Okay, this is part of the Urantia book teaches that there are this whole hierarchy of spiritual beings from, shall I say, that those that are the head of a galaxy, and they're called Ancients of Days, right on down to, when you get down to the local universe level of about, eventually our local universe will have 10 million inhabited planets, so we're only about a third of the way there now, about 3,800,000 planets or something like that. And our own particular world here, Earth, or as they call it, Urantia, we're in the sense of all these other things, we're pretty new. We're pretty primitive here, right?
Yeah. So, well, Earth is Urantia.
Yeah, Earth is Urantia. So.
Okay.
This is where the Urantia book varies from modern science, where they talk about a Big Bang, and by running the clock backwards, they say it all started with some kind of Big Bang. The Urantia book talks about actually the universe being hundreds of billions of years old, and so Michael and Mother Spirit actually came out from paradise, from being created by the Trinity, God and the infinite. The eternal Son and the infinite Spirit create these sub deities, I guess you would call them. They come out into space and they literally organize the material, the suns and the planets and so forth. And then they themselves are such creative beings. They start creating life, a whole order of beings themselves, of which even in the local universe we're the lowest form of life. And so. There are millions. There's 3,800,000 planets already in our local universe. Our local universe is 400 billion years old. That's how old Michael and Mother Spirit are.
Wow.
And they're such spiritual beings that, in other words, they pervade all of this space of the local universe. They pervade. They're part of us. I mean, this is where Christianity talks about the Holy Spirit. Being, part of giving us life. That's what Mother Spirit does. They give us life. And also, they are personal beings that we can, just as much as God within us, we can actually contact them. And this is how I'm able to transmit them. By the way, I'm not the only one doing this. There's probably about a dozen different people in what we call the teaching mission, who are transmitting Michael and Mother Spirit along with a number of other kinds of beings, like archangels and so forth. So the teaching mission, as I mentioned before, Mike, has about 5,200 lessons already. It's been around since 1992, and like I said, I just became aware of it and been doing it for about 8 years now with my little group here in Marin County. So. My lessons, my transmissions are called, just called the Marin TM group, Marin Teaching Mission Group. And you can go online, and I've probably got about 300 of these lessons and questions and answer sessions. So also there's
up online.
Yeah, you can go online. You can go online and actually, for about the last year now, as we evolve this whole thing, you can actually listen to these. I've recorded these sessions. Before before it was just transcript. You can read them, right? But if you want to, you can go online and actually listen to me transmitting Michael and Mother Spirit.
Oh, that's handy.
And all the questions and answers, like all these crazy questions that people ask them, right?
Wow. So, what's the website for that?
The website for that is called Monjorensen. That's another spiritual being. I don't get too deep into that, but it's MONJORONSON. Monjorensen. MONJORONSON.com. Okay. You go there. It's an enormous website because it has a lot of this Urantia material with it, and not only has me, but it has a lot of others too. You just go on audio, click on audio archives, and there it is. You'll see Jerry Lane, Marin Teaching Mission Group, and just click on that, and it'll give the date and so forth. And that way you can just listen to me transmitting Michael and Mother Spirit.
Wow, that's very incredible. So they are, for lack of a better term, our mom and dad.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Wow, that's so cool. So they and you can tap in. Now, let me ask you this question then: if we practice somehow, I don't know how you would. Is there a way to practice to transmit from them for us personally?
Yes.
I mean, I know you talked about asking questions. What are some steps one would take to do that?
Well, I can tell you very briefly how I got into it. Is that, like, say, Donna D'Angelo, she has her own website, but she came out from St. Louis, and I attended her. She was given lessons or sessions like this almost every week, and I was kind of sitting by her side for 4 years, just listening to her.
Wow.
It came time for her to move away. She wanted to go over to get on with her life, go over to Oakland, and so she asked for volunteers. And of course, I didn't think I could do this either, but she it's just by listening to her, and then I just started in my meditations. I just invited this to start coming through me, and so I just in my morning meditation I would sit down and I would just start writing. And next thing you know, after about a couple hundred pages of this, it happened over several months. So all of a sudden, Donna's gone. Here's 6 or 7 people around it. I had one beautiful old guy, Charlie, would come down from Sacramento, almost 70 miles each way at 7 o'clock at night, and drive home. All of a sudden, I got all these people around, and I just, I meditate. I have to meditate for about an hour before I do this, just to kind of settle down out of my own life, right? But part of their message is that we're at the very early stage of this teaching mission business. Eventually, almost everybody will be able to do this.
Oh, I like that.
I mean, all over the world, you're going to have little groups get together, and they'll just take turns doing this. And all your listeners, all you have to do is during your meditation is just ask for a guide, kind of like a spiritual guide, and just start writing. Now, I had an archangel called Anatolia, which is Annapurna, which that name just came through to me. It's actually the name of a mountain.
Oh, really?
He said, that's not my real name, Jerry, but he just said, okay, Jerry, just sit down and just start writing the thoughts that come into your mind, and this might be different. And all of a sudden, my thoughts were coming from a different personality.
Wow.
And I spent about a month, I've got pages and pages of just start writing like this. And he said, don't worry if you lose a train of thought, just stop. And as soon as and so, Michael, what I'm doing when I'm transmitting, it's just I don't hear a voice in my mind, and then decide what I'm going to. I have to be totally spontaneous. I have to open myself to something I don't know what's going to happen next, because I can't anticipate what some illimitable spiritual being wants to say.
Right.
And so it's just simply a matter of getting out of kind of suspending your own creativity in order to let something else just come through. And so as I'm transmitting, I can make sense of what it is, right? But I can't relate with it, or that would be interfering with it. That would be me, right?
Right.
So when it's all over, I have almost no memory of what it was. And so when I listen to the recording, it's like I'm hearing it for the first time.
Because you weren't interfering with the transmission.
Exactly. Like talking with you now, I mean, I'm relating with you, and I have my own train of thought. I hope so anyway. But transmitting is opening yourself to what you cannot anticipate. And that itself is its own difficulty, but it's its own glory. It's its own wonderful thing. So it's been a lot of fun all these years. We at the end of these sessions, I mean, a lot of times where tears are coming out of our eyes, and we're all just breaking up laughing and saying, "Wow, what was that?"
It's a great experience. So, Jerry, from your perspective, I know what I think now. From your perspective, how can this affect humanity?
Well, they're just saying the way they present it is that we're at a certain stage now where there's only a very few people doing this. But as more and more people are able to do this, we're just meditating, right? First of all,
Right.
just meditating and praying. More and more people just meditating and praying, and then as this comes about, as they're able to actually contact or transmit beings, all of a sudden it's going to bring a divine kind of organization to the world that's very, very much lacking now. In other words, our world was, the Aemisegger book goes into some ways that our world was kind of cursed with departing from a very spiritual way that most planets are on.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the only way to end all the conflict, all the warfare, all the greed, and all this terrible, really obscene things that people are doing to each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's just to get more spiritual. And so it's a way of contacting the spiritual community, and that's just another stage of planetary development.
I like that. I mean, that's what we so need right now. It just seems like there's so much a lack of direction in this entire Earth experience right now.
Yeah, and that's why you see this, even not only in terms of warfare, but just in terms of crime. Just people preying on each other in any number of, you say, social and economic ways. And it's because in other words, they're saying they're calling for a decentralization of authority. It's where everybody, in a sense, no longer needs someone telling them what to do. And is not willing to go along with just whatever someone else tells them to do, whether it's their parents or their politicians or whatever. That's the planet. They talk in terms of planetary evolution,
right? And
so this ability to pray, to meditate, and then to receive and transmit, as we call it, or channel spiritual presences. That's just the next step.
Well, Jerry, since you talked about that earlier, you talked about this stillness or being still. Can you just describe how that process works and what kind of value we would get from it, and really how this can help us?
Again, Mike, it's practicing opening yourself to something spontaneous, where prayer is more or less you're asking for help, either from God or from the spiritual community. It's coming out of the past. Mm-hmm. It's stillness is a way of just being very, very super present. Now, when they do, rather than like chanting a mantra or something like that, some set thing, saying the Lord's Prayer, whatever. This is just sitting down and spending some time just being there. One way you can, rather than keep from daydreaming or falling asleep, you can just be aware of your breathing. In other words, your mind you and your mind can pay a tribute to your body, this physical thing that's keeping you here, right? Just by being aware of your breathing, you can. One thing that, like in Zen, they tell you can just count your breaths up to 10 over and over, because it won't stop you thinking. But if all of a sudden you're counting you're counting 17, well, you've been tripping out for a while, right?
Yeah.
So just sitting down and start counting your breaths from 1 to 10 over and over and over again, just to keep in contact with your body, to keep alert. You'll find that itself is rather difficult to do.
Yeah.
But what you're doing by concentrating on your breathing, you're opening your mind. Essentially, what you're saying is, "Okay, God, what have you got for me?" Or just your larger self. They teach you can go into let your soul come forth, relive some experience, like when you're 10 years old. Realize that nothing of value in your life is ever lost. And so this is the great glory of meditation, is all of a sudden just reliving parts of your life and realizing your soul is full with all the people you've known, all those unique individuals.
I like what you just said there, that we need to realize that, how did you say that? Everything
well,
is in...
their definition, again, I wish we had another couple hours, but their definition of soul, right? Your soul is your life experience. And your soul is mostly not all the things you've had, all the toys and stuff, but the people you've known, right? And this is your greatest. This is what you carry with you as you continue on, into eternity. Is all the people you've known, all those separate, distinct personalities that created by God. And so it gives you an appreciation of your life.
Wow, that is so cool.
Right. And this is meditation. So, this is the gift that the spiritual presences within you can give you.
And Jerry, I would tell you what. For me, I'm a go guy. I work. And sometimes it's very difficult for me to focus and do what you're talking about. Just be still. And I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do this for myself and for those people around me. I'm going to go ahead and make a commitment to go ahead and be still for 30 minutes a day and just allow this to happen. I'm very interested in this. This sounds like I had heard about the Urantia book, but until today, I've never known about it. And until you've explained it so well in this book, it really comes alive for people.
Right. Well, like I say, it's online. Now, let me give you a couple websites.
Okay.
Because one is called ubwebsites.com. In other words, the Urantia book, but ubwebsites.com.
Okay.
And there it'll give you 300 links in 28 different categories.
Oh, my God.
And there's a number of them that actually have the whole Urantia book online. And like I say, just go in the table of contents and look around and see what piques your curiosity, right? What tickles your fancy. As you get down, as you go on down there, you'll see something called the TM, Teaching Mission. And there's about a dozen or so websites just on the teaching mission. And so and I'm part of the teaching mission. My own website's not on that quite yet. I've got to do that. So my own website is called evolving-souls.org. Evolving Souls with a little hyphen in the middle. .org.
That's what I have linked at your site right now.
Yeah, and that'll show my book there, and then Byron, my friend Byron, who edited my book, he has all those little categories you can click on. You can one of them is my prologue to my book, which I explain a lot of it. There's links to other radio interviews that I've given. There's even a place where if you want to ask some questions, you can just type in a question, and I check it every couple of days. Just to that's kind of fun too.
I like that.
So evolvingsouls.org, and then I gave you the one called monjornson.com.
Yes.
MONJORONSON. That's where you can, if you want to, you can just listen to some of these transmissions, because believe me, there's a lot more together. When Michael's or Mother Spirit are speaking, they're a lot more together than I am.
You're very well put together, Jerry. I'm going to be honest with you. This is a very good interview, and I know I've gotten comments in my little chat window here about, they enjoy you. They think you're a good spirit is one of the things they said. They said that this man, it seems like a very good man, seems like a good heart, great. Good to hear this translation. I guess this person must have read the Urantia book, and maybe even read your book. So, people are open, I think, to this thing now. The world, in general, is not providing any solutions for anything. And we see the financial cliff. We see the, Barack Obama doing this, and we see the gun control, and we see shootings, and we see the wars, and we see a asteroid smashing into Russia. And people, and people are looking for some type of explanation of where we were, how we were created, where we came from, and where we might be able to go.
Well, that's why the Urantia book is, I don't know, I mean, of all the books I've read, it's hard to talk about because it's unique. I even tease you with the idea of the several hundred people and the thousands of hours it would have taken to have written it, right? And yet it exists, and the one of the main things, the greatest gift it can give you is tie all these things together, philosophy and psychology and history and theology and spirit and mind and body, all this. It ties all these things together. So it's a lifetime study. But so you might as well get started, right?
That's right, because, I'm an avid reader, and I love reading. So this is the next book that I'm going to pick up to read, this book and your book. Now, question for you. Can you pull out some anecdotes, some things in your book that came from Michael?
Well, let me read you one here from Michael.
Okay.
I wish you to appreciate to the fullest extent the importance of experience, an absolute cosmic reality that is being created moment by moment. When we say there is no substitute for experience, it means that no being whatsoever, not even God, has yet experienced this reality being formed moment by moment throughout the entire realm of time and space. This is what you are involved in. This is experiential reality, and you share it with all your fellow beings, from the highest to the lowest. We're nodules of experience, is what he's saying. That's the purpose. Wow. I remember in college we used to wonder, like, what's the purpose of all this? Is there any purpose?
Yeah.
So we went through that period to think there was any purpose to any of it. It's our life itself. This is why God is sharing his creativity, his very being, with us. It's just so he can experience, so he has the experience of us.
So we really are all connected.
Oh, totally. We're connected through him. We're connected through Michael. We're connected through Mother Spirit. Or as some Christians would call, we're connected through Jesus. We're connected through our spirit.
Oh, man, Jerry, you know what? We only got about 3 more minutes to go. So what I'd like, we're running out of time. What I'd like to do is go ahead and give us any final thoughts you might have, any final information about yourself. Maybe if you're doing any speaking, advertise your group, talk about that. We got about 3 minutes, and then we'll wrap it up.
Oh, well, thanks, Mike. Yeah, I'm just, I've been doing this for like a small group here and posting it online. One other thing I would like to give you is called tmarchives.com. In other words, Teaching Mission Archives, tmarchives.com. And if you go there, if your listeners want to, it has all 300 or so of my transmissions over all these years.
Wow.
And it also has a few thousand, quite a few thousand other ones. So that's one other place people can go if they just want to get more. Not only me, but a lot of different, several dozen other people who are doing this in the teaching mission.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other thing is just how much fun this has been. I mean, we tend to be sometimes too serious about religion, and we need to be. We need to be able to be serious. But again, I would like to convey just how much fun. I mean, Michael and Mother Spirit have an enormous sense of humor. They love to tease us. They just love. They say if you really love, you'll tease. And so they just constantly tease us out of ourselves, and it's just been so joyful that, like I say, we just break up laughing and wow, what was that? And I don't even know myself until I listen to it again. And of course, I edit all the writing. So it's just been a wonderful purpose and a wonderful, glorious thing to have in my life, and it's just the wonderful idea of sharing it with others.
So, and Jerry, where can we buy your book at?
Either through that evolvingsouls.org, or it's on Amazon.
Okay.
And I think on Amazon, if you buy it, then you can also make a review. I think so far I'm running 12 to 3, positive to negative. So
good.
We're doing pretty good, I guess.
Is there a Kindle version?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. That's something that I don't know if it is. By the way, that's something that my friend Byron's been handling all that publishing end of it, and I'm not sure. I don't think maybe yet, but I think there will be in time. But right now, you can go to TM Archives. You don't even have to buy my book if you don't want to. But you can get my book on Amazon.com. I think it's about $10 or so, something like that.
Okay. Perfect. So what I want you to do, Jerry, shoot me all those links. I'll add that to your bio. All my listeners can find it then. Just shoot it to my email, mike@toughreality.com. Get it? I have only 1 minute to go, Byron. Sorry, I'm talking Byron. 1 minute to go, Jerry. And you guys, you've been a great interview. I really enjoyed it. I've been thoroughly blessed. I'm thoroughly grateful for you coming on today.
Well, I'm just so thankful myself to have this in my life, and now to kind of get the word out in a way. I guess Byron finally talked me into getting the book out, and getting out of our own little group here. But thank your listeners so much too for just their gracious response.
Yes, sir. Okay. Well, you have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you a little later. Very good. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to make sure you go over there, go to my website, toughreality.com. You can go check him out and go find his material, study the Urantia, ask him questions. This is a very exciting time. I'm so glad that I had an opportunity to interview him today. And we'll see you guys later. This is Mike, Tough Reality, toughreality.com.
Hi, this is Mike. Thank you so much for listening today on Tough Reality. Make sure you go to our website at toughreality.com. Email us at mike@toughreality.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Pinterest. Also, subscribe to our podcast over at iTunes. Again, thank you very much for listening today. Remember, we are on Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please tell all your friends, relatives, neighbors, and anybody else that would like to get a double dose of Tough Reality. Thanks again. See you tomorrow.